Hey guys, I have a full Macraweave tutorial for you today. This is a beginner Macraweave. It only uses 4 knots and techniques: Lark's head knot, square knot, raya knot, and soumak weave. If you require extra help with these knots or techniques, please see the description for additional tutorials. You will also find all details regarding the materials used and written instructions in the description. I started this tutorial using a copper rod, but later liked the look of a wooden dowel better, so I swapped it out. Feel free to use either of these materials or another material. Cut 20 pieces of 5mm 3-ply rope, each piece is 10 feet in length. Attach to your rod using Lark's head knots. Row 1. Tie a row of square knots at the top of your work, 10 square knots total. Row 2. Tie a row of alternating square knots, 9 square knots total. Row 3. Tie a row of alternating square knots, 10 square knots total. Row 4. Tie 5 alternating square knots across your work. Tie a square knot, skip 4 chords, tie another square knot, skip 4 chords until you have tied 5 square knots total. You should start to see a diamond pattern forming on your work. Row 5 and 6. We will now create the bottom half of the diamond. Skip 4 chords and tie 2 square knots. Tie 1 alternating square knot underneath the 2 square knots. In addition to the diamonds, tie 1 square knot on both sides of your work. Tie 3 more diamonds using the same process as the first diamond to create 4 diamonds total. We will create another alternating diamond section. Skip 4 chords and tie a square knot. This will start to create the bottom of the diamond. Tie a square knot with the 4 chords on the left so that it sits in line with the square knot on the right. This pattern does not fit perfectly, so the left corner of the diamond is not shown here. Tie 1 alternating square knot underneath the 2 square knots. Repeat that process all the way along your work, tying 2 square knots and then an alternating square knot underneath the 2 square knots. Rows 8 to 10. Tie 3 rows of alternating square knots. Row 8 should have 10 square knots, row 9 should have 9 square knots, and row 10 should have 10 square knots total. Row 11. Leave a 4-inch gap and tie another row of 10 square knots total. Row 12. Tie a row of alternating square knots, 9 square knots total. Row 13. Leave a 1-inch gap and tie another row of alternating square knots, 10 square knots total. Next, we will fill in the gaps using raya knots and sumac weave. Cut 60 pieces of blush string, each piece is 3 feet in length. Working within the 1-inch gap, attach 3 pieces of string to 2 filler cords to create 20 raya knots total. I'll show you one more time. Cut 24 pieces of medium weight roving yarn, each piece is 3 feet in length. Attach 4 pieces to 2 filler cords to create 6 raya knots total. Attach your first raya knot to the 17th and 18th filler cords from the right, and then attach the remaining 5 raya knots to the right of it. Cut a piece of jumbo weight 2-ply yarn that is 12 feet long. Attach it to your wall hanging using sumac weave by bringing the yarn in front of 8 filler cords and then behind 4 filler cords. Tuck the left end of the yarn into the side of your wall hanging to hold it in place for now. We will adjust it later on. Leave about 8 inches of yarn hanging. Repeat the sumac weave technique until you've reached the other side of your wall hanging. We will now work the sumac weave technique back to the left. Here's how I change directions. Bring your yarn in front of 8 cords, behind 8 cords, in front of 8 cords, and behind 4 cords. You can now work the sumac weave technique back to the left by bringing your yarn in front of 8 filler cords and then behind 4. Wrap each end behind 4 filler cords. We will tuck them into the back of the wall hanging at the end of this tutorial. Cut a piece of medium weight roving yarn that is 15 feet long. Using the same method, create 4 rows of sumac weave by bringing your yarn in front of 8 filler cords, then behind 4. I'll show you 2 rows, then use the same method to create 2 additional rows. Cut a piece of jumbo weight 2-ply yarn that is 15 feet long. Starting on the left, use sumac weave technique to create 2 rows. Create 1 more short row by bringing your yarn in front of 8 cords, behind 8, in front of 8, behind 4, and in front of 4. Cut another piece of jumbo weight 2-ply yarn that is 3 feet long. Add it to the right half of your work using sumac weave. This is optional. If you want to add more fringe, add 1 more short row of raya knots. Cut 24 pieces of velvet yarn, each piece is 2 feet long. Attach 4 pieces to the 5th and 6th filler cords from the left. Create 5 more raya knots to the right of that knot. Flip your work around to tuck in the ends. Tuck the ends into the loops in the back of your work. Cut off the excess cord. If you are worried about the ends coming undone, you can always glue the ends into the inside of the loops. This is optional. Untape the ends and unravel your rope to create wavy fringe. Here's what it looks like from the front. Trim the ends to your desired length and shape and you're all done. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, it would really help me out if you could hit the thumbs up below, and if you think this tutorial may be useful for others, please feel free to share it. I love to see your work, but sometimes I can miss it, so please tag me on Instagram or Facebook if you've used one of my tutorials or if you're using some of my ropes so I can see your work. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly video tutorials. Thank you.